I'm just getting my body ready.
Get your body ready, girl. Get your body, get your mind, get your soul, get your heart, get your mouth, get your ears ready for
Hey
this
guys.
podcast, yo, because it's episode 8.
Hi y'all. Today is a cool episode. I'm excited.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Playing in Traffic. Today we are doing our preaching episode.
Today we're going to talk about bearing fruit. And if you know, then you know.
And if you don't know, well, now you know, right?
Yeah, do you know what that means? Bearing fruit? Have you ever heard of that?
I always think of having children, but
Bearing fruit.
now it means bringing in people who will pay money to your church.
Pretty much. So
Yeah,
it's about I
we
just go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, we were realizing that we've kind of in passing talked about some of your preaching experiences, like casually, but we never really went into depth of like what it meant to the church, why it's such a big part. So today we're going to explain it, like why it's such a foundational part of the church, and then we're going to bring on some of our friends and hear some of their preaching stories, because as we started talking about this with other people, we realized everybody has a crazy preaching story, and we even have an anonymous story to read for you guys. So
Yeah.
it'll be
So
fun.
buckle in, buttercups.
But, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys, I just wanted to come on and I just want you guys to understand like that everything involved in this church is about preaching the gospel and about bearing fruit. And as I've done research, I've realized that it's like this with other cults too. And other religions, they call it proselytizing. So it just means preaching, recruiting. These are all words that we're going to use. Bring pretty much like you said, bring people in to pay them money to belong to their cult.
Yeah. Keeping the spreading the word and keeping more people in and bringing it in.
Right. But I want to explain how they explain it, like
Yeah.
how they justify it and
Yeah.
why you get so like wrapped up in it.
Yes. Very good idea.
Okay, so every single study, every single sermon, every single conversation is about quote unquote bearing fruit and saving a soul. So that's what they call it. They call it saving one soul, saving souls. And the whole premise is that God came to this earth in the flesh. God, Almighty God, came down to this earth and took on this ugly, ridiculous, sinful body that's full of all these sinful things with the sole mission to save us from hell and destruction.
Okay.
So we have been saved and we have received God's grace, is what they believe. So since we have received God's grace, it's our duty to share God's love. And so every time in the Bible that it says love, God's love, anything about love, it's all about saving souls.
Okay. So the only way to show love is to bring people in.
The only way to show love is to bring people in.
Okay.
And so they teach that everybody should preach the gospel. Every
Is
single person.
is this like a direct out of the Bible quote, or is this more of the piecemeal kind of?
It's sort of like as the puzzle gets put together, this is sort of their teaching. So, in the Bible, how it says, love is kind, or, love is,
Patient,
that verse, love
right?
is patient, love is kind, da, da, da. So, pretty much they just take that love as like saving one soul. So, like to save a soul, you have to be kind, you have to be patient. The only way to actually bear fruit and to bearing fruit means pretty much bringing somebody to the church to get baptized.
Yes.
Okay. And making them a good member. So you don't want them to just come get baptized because this happens like most of the time. They come, they get baptized, and then they leave the next day because they're like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
But you want to bear a good fruit. So a good, juicy fruit, beautiful fruit that you want to present to God. And that would be somebody who would come, get baptized, and immediately would start studying, would start keeping all the services. And it's somebody that you would love bomb and give all your attention to. And when you bear fruit, it's not just about going and preaching and bringing them to the church, it's your responsibility to take care of them. It is like your child.
They're like a
So you
reflection on you.
Right. So like you have to take care of them. If they need a ride to church, you have to pick them up. If they have some kind of situation, you need to handle it. If they have some kind of problem with their family, if you need to go visit them, if you need to study the Bible with them. So like if they have a study that you don't know, you need to start studying and prepare it because you have to teach them. So it's a whole like immersive process. And they believe that through that process, you will understand God's love because you go through a lot of sacrifice. You spend all your time, all your money trying to take care of your, quote unquote fruit.
I think people are familiar with kind of the like the idea of like Jehovah Witness or Mormons, like the door-to-door knocking and proselytizing.
Right.
What did you guys do? Like, what did your preaching process look like?
Okay. So you guys, we would always go in partners. We would always go 2 by 2. For some reason, I think
Oh
that's
my
in the
gosh,
Bible. I'm not sure.
that's so Mormon because that song in the Book of Mormon, go with you by two. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Yes, the Mormons do it, Jehovah Witness do it. I think that there is a Bible verse that
There
says,
must be.
yeah, I'm sure.
This is
So
like
anyway,
when you guys say something that is very like traditional throughout all of the religions, like Mormonism,
mhm.
regular Christianity, Catholicism, I always think like there must be a direct quote from the Bible that everybody is picking to like follow that. Like I think of
Yeah,
that
it's
every time the
fascinating
like
because
new thing. That must be like directly in the Bible somewhere because
when you're in the church, you think that that Bible verse is only pertaining to you and your church. And so you see it as your reality. But
yeah.
then when you get out and then you realize, oh my God, Jehovah Witnesses see it as their reality and the Mormons see that as their reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell is
The
happening?
144,000 thing, the
Yes.
teaching 2 by 2, all of that. That's
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, it'd be 2 by 2. So in the beginning, it was always a brother and a sister, usually. And what would happen is it would usually be a Korean and then an American because the Koreans needed help speaking.
ah,
So a lot of the preaching, especially during the daytime, because there's not a lot of members, a lot of the preaching goes to the American members. Like it gets put on you because, you're trying to help the Koreans. So anyway, um, so we would go door to door, just like you commonly see. When that was like the most common one. That one we would do like mostly in the summertime when it was, nice weather, but it would also be really, really hot. Like that one is a really hard one. And it would be hours long. So you would get dropped off in a neighborhood and for hours you would go preaching, door to door. Most of the time you would get the door slammed in your face. This is when you would really endure a lot of people would talk a lot of shit to you. People would like point to their no soliciting signs. Like people hate when you come to their door. Some people, but you guys would be surprised how many people allow you into their house to study the Bible.
huh.
A lot of people are really open. And when I look back now, I'm like, that probably is not safe.
Yeah.
Because as time went on, there started to be some brothers and sisters that weren't acting appropriately together during preaching. So after that, they had to change it to sister, sister, brother, brother.
Oh, because they were like running off and smooching.
I'm not sure exactly, but there were, some problems and people would be like talking together and making relationships. So we can't be having that now. Can't be having that. So then they changed it to sister, sister, brother, brother. But when you're two sisters going door to door, that's probably not safe, like just you and then a little Korean, sweet little Korean, it's really probably not the safest thing. And we're going to hear some stories, that'll be interesting for you guys. So anyway, I would say the door to door was physically one of the hardest because you had to endure, we would go also in winter. So it doesn't matter. Like it would be cold, it would be hot, and people would treat you like crap. And that was really a hard one to do.
Where did you go to the bathroom?
You wouldn't. You would just wait.
Oh, see, I'm out. I'd already be out.
Or if you were in somebody's house, you'd just be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Can I please use your bathroom? But no, you would usually like go before. You get prepared. You're prepared, And let me also add that you're usually carrying like a 700-pound bag because you want to have your Bible, you want to have your evidence book, you want to have everything that you need. You got to have your contact list, all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm sure it's easier now because it's probably all electronic. But when I was there, it was like, yes. And another way that we would go preaching was at stores. So you'd like pretend shop. And then this would be more like evening preaching time when people get off work. So, if you do have a job, you work and then you come to the church and then you have an evening preaching. And then that's where you would go to Walmart or Target or King Supers or, wherever you'd want to go preaching, to the mall, whatever like that. This was hard because people hate to be approached. Now, this was before COVID. I haven't been preaching since COVID, and I'm sure that now it's like way, way harder. I don't even know if they go to
So
stores.
different now. If someone were to approach you for no reason, you'd be like,
Right.
"Excuse me, are you 6 feet away from me?"
Yeah, so I don't even know if they preach that way anymore, but when we were in there, we would do this. And when you randomly approach people, people are like, "What do you want from me?" It's very, very
I don't know how
weird.
you do it. I don't know how you would go about that without automatically being shunned or pushed away.
This is what I want to tell you guys. We went preaching 3 times a day, every day, okay, for years at a time, except for Sabbath day and then third day because you have to keep the feast. Intense preaching. And like you said, it's terrifying. Every single time that I did it, I would be terrified out of my mind. Every single time, because it's not my natural, it's not my nature. And most people, it's not your nature. Like my husband feels the same. Many people that I've met, it is the most uncomfortable, most awkward thing of your life. But it makes me think of our last episode about burnout. Because I was thinking about if you're in that constant like phase of terror and like fear and like shame and being made fun of like constantly, every day in and day out, like that will do something to you.
Exhausted.
So all of you listeners out there, like if you're going through some mental gymnastics and some PTSD and some trauma and panic attacks, like do not feel like you are alone because that shit wears on you.
Yeah.
And it is completely normal. And we're here for you. We're here for it because, it happened to me and it happens to everyone because your body cannot withstand that kind of stress and dissociation over and over and over again without manifesting into something,
Yeah. For sure.
So that's crazy. Okay. Another way that we went preaching was campus preaching. And this is the one that I feel the yuckiest about. Now looking back. At the time, I loved it because, not loved it, but you're preaching to young people. So their minds are more open. This would be the one that I think you would receive the least amount of persecution.
Yeah. Because they're like at school,
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of in an open space. To be
Right.
about like an idea that doesn't fit within there. Like not like I'm trying to grocery shop and my kid is screaming and this lady's like trying to chat with me about Mother God. Get out of my way, lady.
Right. So a lot of times, so what they would do is they would make like fake Bible study groups. And they're not fake. I mean, they would make them up, but I mean, you're supposed to be a student when you make a Bible study group. These people were not students at the time when I was there, they were not students. They would just make up a Bible study club and, let people know where they were meeting and usually be in the library. And then they would just do these Bible studies. And most baptisms came from this. And they would also like set up things outside, where people would walk by. The thing about campus is a lot of people are just like sitting around reading, studying, so you can approach them and they have time and, they're open-minded and they're young. But that's the thing that makes me feel the yuckiest about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like these are the most vulnerable people in our society because they're just getting out of high school. They're just learning how to live on their own. They're going through that major life transition that makes you vulnerable to cults.
Yeah.
And then there we are. Here we are, with our quote unquote truth.
Did you directly ever like get in trouble by the school? Did they care that you guys were just setting up shop campuses?
So there are many cases where they would get in trouble, and then what they would do is they would maybe just change the Bible group name or change a little bit, maybe go to a different section of the campus, or maybe go to a different campus for a little bit and then come back, like wait for it to cool off. There's many in this area in around Colorado, so they would find ways to be little sneakies.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you have the truth, then you don't need to be sneaky. Like if you're not doing anything wrong, then there's nothing to worry about. But this is something that I hope that we can really raise awareness about. If you're a college student, really do your research. Don't just trust people, because as you get older, you realize a lot of things about life and you get life experience. But these young kids, they don't have that yet. And they're very susceptible. So, like I said, a lot of our baptisms came from there. And they would use the Bible verse that talks about the youth like the dawn or something, like how in the last days most of God's people would be youth, and they would be like God's soldiers, the youth. But it's like that's what Hitler said too. So
Oh, God.
so anyway, that's those were the main ways of preaching that we would do. um so I want to tell you guys a little bit about what that also does to, like, me and my husband were talking about this earlier, and he was like, yeah, but that's not the only way of preaching. Like, preaching is constant, 24 hours a day. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. Everybody or anybody that you see in your face is a possible brother or sister.
Yeah.
So it creates so much tension in all of your relationships, especially family members, because you desperately want to save them and you sincerely believe that they are going to hell.
So
All right.
everybody in your face looks like a fruit.
Everybody in your face is a fruit.
Did you choose an actual fruit to imagine us as?
An apple. Like, I would always imagine like a big, juicy, ripe apple.
Yeah, when you say bearing fruit, I think of pears. I don't know why.
Oh, pears. That's a good one.
Yeah, because it's like
So,
shaped.
yeah, right. That's hilarious. So, it creates like this. I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can, but this tension, this division between you and your family members. A lot of family members come in and get baptized, but a lot don't, and a lot, you receive quote unquote persecution because now you're not celebrating Christmas.
Mm.
Your family's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Why are you going out preaching? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So anyway, you just feel like every time you see them, all you care about is quote unquote saving them.
Mhm.
But every time I would see you.
Yeah, all of this division, all of this conflict like happened within our family. Like we're close and we're pretty open and honest, and so I think it didn't like ruin the relationship, but I could definitely see how if you're not already close with your family, it could be the thing that like divides you forever.
Right.
Or while you're in it, you have to, if there's no patience in the family, then
Yeah, that's the thing. Please be patient because they need it. But the thing is like it makes you always have an ulterior motive. So like everything that you do is ultimately because you want them to come to church.
right.
So like if you want me to come hang out and have lunch with you, it's only because I want to preach to you and bring you to church. That's the
Yeah.
only reason. If
Or
not,
like,
I'm not going to lunch with you.
hey, do you guys want to come watch my son perform in this thing at my church? And then after maybe stay for a Bible study, or meet me at this charity thing and donate some socks to the homeless, and then maybe do a Bible study after.
Always. It's
Yeah.
always followed by Bible study. Maybe you want to come and get baptized after?
Yeah.
Always. Always. It's never done with a genuine intention. It's always with the intention of saving them. And because if they're not going to get saved, then that means that they are being used by Satan, that they are being used as a tool to tempt you. So you have to be careful. So you're constantly paranoid. Anytime you're with your family, your coworkers, unless they're going to accept the message, you're constantly paranoid that they are
Trying to
going
get
to
the devil's message.
deceive you.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So you thought that when we weren't in the church, we were trying to bring you over onto the dark side?
Always, always. If you were trying to invite me to a party, I remember my best friend had a bachelorette party. Is that a tool of Satan? Is that a way to
Oh, yeah,
tempt
you
me
didn't
to
go.
go? I didn't go.
Come on, you should have gone that night because I got my purse locked in. Thanks,
I
best
know.
friend. You know
I
who you
should
are.
have. I
Remember?
should have
Do you
gone.
remember that night? It's so dramatic. I could take this out if you don't want, but
No, I remember. I
I wish
should have
you would have
gone.
been there. They thought I had left the bar and they took all of my stuff, my jacket, my keys, my purse, back to the hotel room with them. And we were like 5 miles from the hotel room, and I had to walk home or walk to their hotel at like 3 in the morning to go get my house keys.
Yeah, see? Satan.
If you
Satan's
would have
work.
been there, you
Just
would have
kidding.
just been able to get my keys for me.
That's hilarious. Yeah, so many adventures I had to miss out on because you genuinely think that that is like a way of being tempted, by
Yeah.
evil spirits. So you don't want them to drag you away, but you also want to save them. So so this is what mostly happens, Lindsay, is most people after their family doesn't accept the truth, most of them cut off ties with them.
Yeah.
Most people, because they're just like, I don't want to be tempted. And most families will be really aggressive and confrontational about it. And so they just don't want to deal with it. So they'll cut them off.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times they'll move to a different location. Sometimes the family doesn't even know where they are. So a lot of that stuff will happen. So that's really, really messed up. So then, this is how the church can break up families through ways like this. But it's a really genuine like feeling and paranoia and like constantly trying to stay in contact with your family, but all because you want to save them, but then also like you don't want to be with them because they're sinful and yucky and they're doing all these bad things.
Yeah.
So it's really weird. So it creates this tension between you and your family and you and your coworkers and everything. Another thing that I want to talk to is how it feels inside the church about bearing fruit and preaching. So they actually make these like competitions. So when I kind of first got baptized, there was something called the 10 talent movement and it was worldwide. And so everybody had to bear 10 talents, 10 fruit. A talent is also like a fruit because
You
there's a
said
story.
you said right when you got into the church, or this?
It was a little bit after. It was
Okay.
a little bit after I got baptized and so they want you to find 10 beautiful souls that you can present to God and that you can make into, gospel workers. So they make competitions. And as I was reading and studying, I think the Moonies also would make competitions. It also creates like pressure from inside of the church because what they would do is it's all posted publicly, like it's posted on the wall. So everybody can see who your fruit is, if they're tithing, if they're doing their studies.
Can the people that were baptized, like can your fruit see these things too?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Everybody, yeah, it's very weird. And when you get baptized, like you take a picture with your fruit and everybody sees, oh, this is your fruit. So it creates like this whole social pressure and everything to bear fruit. And if you're not bearing fruit, everybody knows. Everybody knows if you're not bearing fruit. And so you kind of receive some shame. Like anytime somebody studies with you, it's always focused about how, because if you're not bearing fruit, something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because there's fruit of the spirit, patience, love, kindness, all that stuff. If you don't have those things, then you cannot bear a fruit. You cannot find somebody. God will not allow it. So if you're not bearing fruit, that's evidence that you have not repented enough and that you're still sinful. And that's evidence. So it creates a lot of shame and stress and guilt. And so you'll be like praying at midnight, crying, please allow me to bear fruit. Please allow me to change so that I can bear beautiful fruit. So it's just this whole like mind thing.
Yeah.
But when you do bear fruit, you get a lot of praise. So it goes both ways. Like people who bear a lot of fruit, they're seen as having the most Holy Spirit. They're seen as the most faithful, the most beautiful. They get the most love. They get the most rewards. They get the most responsibilities in church, which is like your blessings. And so also people around see that, and so that's a way to just, encourage people to want to bear fruit.
How many did you bear?
Oh man, not many. I didn't bear a lot of fruit, so I was constantly stressing.
Yeah.
But when you do bear fruit, it feels so good. And then afterwards, you're stalking them because you're like, I need you to keep services because I need it to look good for me, kind of like that. But really, really genuinely, like you're thinking like, oh, they need to know this study. They need to learn about this. They need to learn about this so that their faith can get stronger. I mean, you're literally seeing them as your baby and your child that you need to take care of.
Ugh.
So it's very interesting. I would say that fruit, like bearing fruit, recruiting is seen as like a currency inside the church. You have a lot of fruit, you're in a high position. You can still be in a high position because I was still a deaconess, but I didn't have a lot of fruit. But you can still have a position, but it's still like known amongst the members that, you don't have a lot of fruit. You don't have a lot of names underneath on the public board.
Would you say that the people who seem to bring in the most people, did they have a certain kind of personality? Were they like,
Absolutely.
they were already the like, hey man, how are you today? Like,
Yes, those are the salesmen.
yeah, I can't imagine that if you were shy or like not already, if you didn't already have that kind of personality, that it would be really hard to do that.
Lindsay, can you imagine me as
No,
going up to strangers and approaching people?
no, no.
Is that even in my like personality at all? Absolutely, absolutely not. That's why it's so fascinating that I was able to do it, because they teach you that being shy and being timid, you need to overcome that. That's a sin.
Yeah, that's
So from the very beginning, they taught me that because they need you to teach. They need you to be a preacher.
yeah.
That's why. But like they teach you that it's a sin and that you need to overcome that. You need to stand. You need to be bold. You need to be strong. You're a soldier. You're an army. You're God's army. So you need to go out and you need to be boastful about your God. And
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh my
like
God.
so opposite of your personality.
Right. 100%. That's why every time you would preach, you have to pray and you have to depend on God and you have to like go inside yourself. Really, what you're doing is like just going to your cult identity, you know? I've been learning about why cults do this because there's a reason. As we've been learning, like there's a reason why this church and all cults are doing the things that they're doing. When you are preaching together, you're getting persecuted together. And I think that we've talked about this a little bit before. And that creates a sort of bond amongst you. And one of the things that they want to do immediately, so as soon as you like learn your basic studies, immediately they want you to become a preacher. They want you to immediately start teaching your family, your friends, and then they want you to start going door to door immediately. But there's a reason why they do that. It's because when you start teaching others something, it like solidifies it into you more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You're saying this is what I believe in. Even if I
Right.
just learned it yesterday.
Right.
Now you're saying to somebody else, you should come believe this with me.
Right.
Listen to this thing that I believe in so much enough to come to your door and say it to you.
Right. I want to read you this. This is from Combating Cult Mind Control from Steve Hassan. And this is from page 72. This is the chapter about all about mind control and understanding mind control. And he says that the new member is typically assigned to proselytizing duty as soon as possible. Research in social psychology has shown that nothing firms up one's beliefs faster than trying to sell them to others. Making new members do so crystallizes the cult identity quickly. So it makes them just believe it stronger, harder, faster, It's a tactic. It's a tactic used, But when you're in it, you don't see it as that. You're just hearing these studies and you're being moved by the Holy Spirit to share this message, but it's interesting. And then also, when you are preaching, you get persecuted, quote unquote. People talk shit to you. People are awful. You guys know people are awful. People are racist. People would say racist things, to the Koreans and to our Mexican brothers and sisters. It was awkward. It was awful. So what would happen is you get persecuted and then you all come together again.
Yeah.
Into the bus. And you start singing songs of persecution together in harmony. And you feel this bond and you feel like you're Jesus and the disciples. You feel like you're walking the path of sacrifice and suffering. And the fact that they're persecuting you means that you're not from this world. It means that you're God's chosen people. And this is a sign that this is the truth. And that's something to really understand. Like, preaching is an important part of the cult tactic of making your belief stronger and making you bonded to these people together stronger.
Yeah, and saying this is your real family.
Right.
Your actual family doesn't understand what you're going through and suffering.
So sad.
One of I was trying to think of like my own memory of you preaching, and I never saw you preaching or anything. And I think I've said this before, but The only thing, my experience was like my friends would call me and they'd be like, your sister was at my school again today. I saw your sister at Walmart. Can you please tell her to stop calling me?
That's hilarious.
With like a few friends that specifically that you just kept running into that would be like, can you tell your sister that I don't want to go to her church? She keeps asking me.
Oh, you had one friend. You had one friend. I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name, but she was going to be my most beautiful fruit. And I had my eyes set on her because she already believed in God. And so I thought that, check. And I really thought I could get her. So every time I saw her, I wanted to preach to her and teach her and everything.
Typically that I remember being like, can you please tell your sister to
I know. And now we're friends. And now I sincerely apologize because I really wanted to save her. Like, it genuinely is done out of love. And that's what I want people to understand. You think that this is God's love. You think because, the definition of love has been twisted so much. So you think that by enforcing your beliefs on people and intruding and, harassing them at Walmart, you think that this is okay. It's not okay,
Yeah.
And, you ask about if we got in trouble at campuses. Well, we got in trouble at Walmart all the time. We would get kicked out of Walmart maybe once or twice a week. There were times when it was just ridiculous. And they would actually start putting our pictures up and saying, these people are not allowed in because we were really annoying. And people would complain about us all the time, and we would go to the Bible section. We would just open Bibles right then and there and just preach with people. And people would come immediately and get baptized. People think that you are sent from God. They think that they have been praying for God, a sign from God. And so when you show up, they think that it's a sign and a lot more than you would imagine. Come and immediately get baptized.
Can I say what my plan was if I ever ran into somebody?
Sure. What's your plan?
What my plan was, if I was ever approached in the grocery store by somebody from your church,
what would you do?
I would say, oh, I'm actually a psychic, and I'm getting a message from somebody with like a foreign name, a father figure.
Oh my gosh.
And he's trying to tell me that mother and pastor are bad, and all of the things you're learning are bad. I don't know if that means anything to you, but
oh my gosh,
telling me
that would trip them out so bad.
I thought that would be so funny, like to act like I had never heard of your guys' church before, but then like tell them all of these things, like you're on the wrong path. Father doesn't like this. This isn't even what Father wanted.
Well, I hate to say this, but one of the ways that you could avoid them is you could say you're homeless and gay. You're a gay homeless person or that has a handicap or psychic.
Yeah.
I learned the reason why. The reason why they don't want to preach to homeless. Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Tips and tricks in case you're ever approached by
tips and tricks. Tell them that you're a gay homeless person. and the people in there are not homophobic. The people in there are not like that. They're just taught that those people's spiritual sin, we can't understand it. And so if they don't want to repent, they can. If you want to repent of being gay, you absolutely can. They see gay as just another sin, as like just as like premarital sex is a sin or smoking or whatever. It's all within the same category. So if you can repent and be, and really, really be forgiven, then that's okay. You can be accepted. But they're just taught that, those people's sins are unforgivable and we can't understand. So that's between them and God. So, but the real reason they don't want homeless people and people with handicaps is because what do they have to offer? What do they have to offer to the cult? If they are not providing money, if they are not providing their time or their energy, then it's meaningless. They don't want those kind of people.
Yeah.
That's why they want good fruit.
Yeah.
They want good, juicy fruit because those are the people that are going to work their asses off. I'm telling you, the most talented, productive, smart people are inside of this cult, are inside of these cults. We need to get them out because they can offer so much to our society.
Well, that seems so strange then that they would exclude gay people.
Mm-hmm.
Because other than...
Well, that's specifically because of Sodom and Gomorrah also.
Oh,
Like any type of sexual immorality, not just homosexuality, any type of sexual morality is considered wrong, like really bad, because it's also like with your body. It's this whole thing, it's the same unhealthy crap that's preached in other churches.
exactly.
But taken to an extreme. So this goes with the part about how when you're persecuted, it really like solidifies it into your soul and you really believe it stronger and stronger. And when you guys, you're going 3 times a day. I cannot emphasize that anymore. 3 times a day you're doing this, okay? And this is also from Steve Hassan's book. This is about his life in the Unification Church. This is from page 24, but he talks about preaching, recruiting. It says, in my new position, it was my job to recruit newcomers to workshops. There had been a good deal of public exposure to the group's activities, and we felt the full brunt of public persecution. We truly identified with the early Christians. The more people opposed us, the more committed we felt. At that time, the media carried some sensational articles and television shows about the Moonies, which reinforced our fears that communists were now taking control of America. Remotivated by our increased level of fear, we continued our recruiting activities at a blinding pace. We all felt a great deal of pressure to recruit a minimum of 1 new person per member per month, and all members had to report their activities each night to their central figure. It was as if we were God's army in the middle of a spiritual war, the only ones who could go to the front lines and fight Satan each day. I thought that was so fascinating because that goes exactly with us and exactly how we felt. Exactly how we felt. So the more you persecute them, the more they believe. And now we have some.
And now stay tuned for some preaching stories from other members.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we're back with one of our favorite guests. Yo, Jordan is in the house.
This is
Hello,
Jordan that was in the Church of God, not Jordan from Great Light Studios.
Oh
So we
yeah,
have two
I'm sorry,
Jordans.
Jordan Young, a real
Jordan Young.
name.
Yes. And
Jordan
he's going to share.
is back with us, and he's got some preaching stories for you guys all to hear. So pull up to your radios, tuck up your blankets, turn on your fireplaces.
I don't think they have radios. I think they
Take
have their
a listen.
phones.
Take a
Okay.
nice listen. Take it away, Jordan. Give us some preaching stories.
Well, if I can remember a few, one of the most memorable ones was I was preaching in Simi Valley, and for those who don't know, Simi Valley is like well, to give you context, I'm a black man. I'm mixed. I'm black and Mexican, right? So I'm in this like neighborhood. It's like Caucasians, nothing but Caucasian people. Simi Valley is like where a lot of like retired cops are. It's very Republic right wing. I don't want to get too much to politics, right? But so we're in this environment in this suburban neighborhood, and I'm just getting dirty looks from a lot of people, right? First of all, but we're preaching, right? We're preaching the gospel. It's like 95 degrees outside. It was in the summer. I remember this. I was literally like 16 years old. I'm not gonna lie. I was 16. I was 16 years old. Um, I was preaching with a youth member. He was like probably like in his mid 20s. A good brother I was preaching with. And we pull up to this one house and we knock on the door. And as soon as like we heard the door open, this dude comes out with his shotgun, like no hesitation. Like this dude comes.
Was he a white guy? Just curious.
Yeah. He was.
Okay.
Yeah, he was.
Damn.
He comes out straight like with his shotgun like right away, and so when we go to door preaching, we're not like we don't want to like disturb too much. Like we don't want to just be banging on the door over and over and over. We'll knock like 3 times, and if no one answers, like, we're on to the next house, right? Sometimes members would want to go the extra mile and be like, "Hello, is anybody home?"
Yeah.
Like, sometimes members would want to do that, but me and my preaching partner, we weren't really like, it's hot, like, we're kind of like, let's just get, let's get this over with. But yeah, like, this guy comes out with the shotgun, and my preaching partner, he was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Like, this guy is like, he's only 16, like.
Oh.
Yeah, but he was like cursing us out and like, get off my property and all this stuff. But other than that, like, with those, like, just going door to door preaching, period, like, you're gonna get a lot of people that are just gonna like slam the door in your face. They're gonna be like, "Did you see the sign that says no solicitation?" And
Tony said.
yeah.
Jordan, like in that case, would you guys have gotten on a bus and been like dropped off in a specific neighborhood to go to, or did you guys like call and meet each other?
So how those door-to-door preaching days would go, typically it was during the day. Only during the day we would do door-to-door preaching. Mostly on Sundays is when I would do it, because during the rest of the week I was, doing school. But during like summer break, I would go door-to-door preaching all day, every day.
Oh,
So we'll go to various different neighborhoods, and so in the morning at 10 a.m. We would have the preaching meeting, and we'll sing some new songs, right? We'll do like a prayer, and we'll share some fragrances, right? And that'll kind of get us in like the right mindset, right? It'll kind of like just it's like a hypnosis or hypnotizing type thing. Like, hey, we're singing these songs, we're praying, right? We're getting in the right mindset, so that when we're preaching, or we have like the right intentions and things like that. Yeah. So we'll partner up during that preaching meeting, and we're off into separate cars. So like there'll be 2 teams, like, because there's always preaching partners, like only 2 people for the most part, unless there's an odd number, then the third person will go with 2 other people. So we'll be in so 4 people per car, right, type thing, or the church van, which would hold like 6 or 8 people. So we'll go to certain parts of certain neighborhoods, and we'll make sure that we haven't been there before, right? We'll make sure we don't have it marked off on our map. So we'll look at our map, and we'll check like which streets have we not preached on yet. Even though we may have preached on some other street 5 years ago. Now, like, there's new people, like, there's new people obviously probably living there, but we're not going to go back to that neighborhood and really, preach over there again,
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get into the separate cars, and we'll go to the neighborhood, and the driver will drop one team off, and then we'll park somewhere else, and then, meet up at a certain point. And then, so from 10 a.m. going to the location, we'll probably start preaching around like 11:30. And we'll be preaching till like 5. We'll have like a little snack break, like at 2, but then we're preaching till like 5 or 6 p.m. and then we're going back to church and we're having dinner together.
Wow.
That's how it was. That's literally how it was. A lot of my days in the summer, and a lot of Sundays, countless numbers of Sundays, just going door to door preaching like that. And it didn't matter rain or shine. You were out there knocking on doors. You were doing your best to get somebody baptized the same day. Like,
yeah, we kind of went over
intense.
like what bearing fruit is, and kind of the intent of the going preaching. You kind of said that you and your partner would say, like, let's just get this over with. Did you hate preaching, or were you into it?
That was like really rare when we would, because I was really close with this brother. We were like really close, so we were able, like, sometimes it'd be like, it's kind of like really hot right now, but when you do that, like, you feel really guilty, like, because you're not supposed to grumble about anything.
Yeah.
So it was very, very seldom, very rare where we would talk about it amongst one another, like, hey, let's get this over with, But we didn't really say that to each other. It was more like that was the vibe, that was like the kind of energy that we were, feeling off each other. Like, it's really hot. Like, we're not going to say it, but our actions say otherwise. Like, we're, low energy, it's like really hot outside. So that's
Did
the
you
thing.
feel like it was like, did you feel like it was a sacrifice? Like you were sacrificing
Yeah.
like God sacrificed?
Exactly. So the reason why they encourage door-to-door preaching so much is because, like Father Anton Hong, he was, while he was spreading the gospel, that's what he did. He would go up, do door-to-door preaching. He would go up in the mountains and like go to someone's house up in the mountains, and
All alone.
Yeah, all alone. He would wear a summer jacket in the summer, I don't because they said they bought him they bought Father a winter coat, or he could only afford like one coat, so he had this thick winter coat, and they said he wore that in the summer as well. Like, he was like he was like so hot, like sweating, and they would say all these stories, right? Up in the
To make
mountains,
you
like,
feel so guilty and
yeah,
make you feel like,
it was the propaganda. That was
yeah.
that was what they were pushing. So when you're preaching, like, even though you may have a hint of like complaint, like, you're gonna feel guilty about that. You're gonna, at that moment, if you have complaint in your mind, you've sinned. You've already sinned in the eyes of the Church of God. And that's how they'll guilt you like that. They'll guilt trip you. And when you're preaching, like, you want to have that mindset, like, oh, this is sacrifice. This is for father and mother. That they did the same thing in Korea, trying to grow the church, trying to find our lost brothers and sisters. And yeah,
the Book of Mormon song out of my head. Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
No, I haven't.
Song. Okay, I'm gonna send it to you after this. But there's a song about
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
going 2 by 2 to the doors to preach. Together, the Mormons go off in 2. And every time you guys keep talking about it, I just keep singing that song in my head. We'll put it in the show notes, everyone, because it's.
Jordan, did you go 2 by 2, brother and brother, or sister and sister, or brother and sister?
No, it was brother and brother.
Brother and brother. Always? Was it always like that?
It was like that probably because the earlier years, it was brother sister.
Right.
It was brother sister. In the earlier years, like, I want to say approximately from when I was in, which was 03 till I want to say like 2010 or 11, and then that's when it switched up because we got so big, and I remember problems of like brothers and sisters trying to, they're getting together, and there was like there was drama and stuff. So like, I remember some of that stuff, and right around that time was when they kind of switched it up and made it more strict, like made it to where there was way less interaction between males and females.
I bet that must have happened often enough that they had to switch the rules. They had to like making out or something.
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly what happened in our area. That's what happened in our area. So it's interesting.
I remember for one of the father's birthday ceremonies, like, we'll do plays and stuff. And one year, this was probably like 07 or 08. I still remember there was this play that they filmed. They filmed a skit. They did a skit, right? The members did a skit, and it had to do with like boyfriend girlfriend drama in the church. Like, it was the craziest thing. Like, they actually did a skit on it. And then they tried, like, in the skit they turned it into like what you're supposed to be doing. Like, you're not supposed to, you don't come to Zion, for to look for a girlfriend, right? This. So they guilted a lot of people because it was a lot of that going on.
Like, I'm a teenager. That's exactly what I'm interested in right now. I don't know how they do that with the younger kids. I just don't like. Your story is so fascinating to me because, kids just rebel against like, I'm fascinated with the kids that are into it because.
Yeah. So the craziest thing is, I think I had mentioned it before. So I was 15, and I was like, this was like approaching 2012, right? And I'm like, how can I like guarantee my spot? I'm like going through existential crisis moment because I'm thinking, am I gonna go to heaven? Like 2012 is like a couple years away. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I, I was in my rebellious phase at that point, and the whole 2012 talk ramping up kind of like scared me a lot to where I was like, hey, pastor, let me go preaching. Like, I know I'm only 15 years old, but I was already tall at the time as well.
Oh, that's
And I
right. You asked to go. You weren't even supposed
yeah,
to yet.
yeah, I had asked to go. So he let me, like, and it was this big thing, like, oh, Jordan gets to go preaching, like, oh, he's only 15, what? Like, so I couldn't like say my age anywhere, or else like the church would get in trouble.
How old do you
Um,
think legally you're allowed to be to preach?
I
Or do you
would,
think it's even, I wonder if it's even a rule.
right.
Yeah. How many times has the state or the government ever encountered that issue that they've made a law?
Right. But you know what? As a mom, I would have my children with me and I would preach, like when I would go grocery shopping. And
Yeah.
people do not like that. Like they will be like, how dare you do that with your child and stuff.
Yeah.
Like people are totally turned
Would
off when
think
you,
they'd be nicer to you if you had your kid with you.
oh no. Sometimes, but not always.
So like I would bear fruit, and like my fruit would then find out how old I was, and and like it happened a couple times, and they're like, what? Like, what? You're only 15? Like, what? I thought you were like 19 or 20. Like,
And you're their spiritual leader.
Jordan,
yeah, exactly.
do you think that you bore a lot of fruit? Did you bring a lot?
I didn't bear a lot of fruit. It was like, so with that, I was a child, and like from the earlier years. So whatever, like, I don't know how, I forgot how exactly it was explained to me, but whatever fruit that my grandmother bore was technically counted as mine.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's so cute. Did your
So
grandma bear a lot of fruit?
no, she didn't.
Oh.
She didn't. That's a crazy thing. Like, we didn't bear a lot of fruit. Like, she bore one, like, I want to say like the first like decade or something. She only bore like one fruit. And then when I started preaching, I had borne two fruit myself. Like, and that was like a huge deal. Like, oh my God, like, but the craziest thing was I saw how hard my grandmother was on herself because she couldn't bear a lot of fruit. And she would talk about it a lot. And she went through a lot. Like, I could tell looking back at it, like she was literally depressed over not bearing fruit. And that's the type of, like, if you don't bear fruit and you're in this church, like, some way, somehow, you're gonna get the message that if you're not bearing fruit, then you're a bad tree. And what does the Bible say about bad trees and bad branches? They get thrown into the fire.
Right. Lindsay's face.
so I could, like, with the two fruit that I bore, like, one stayed and like one left, the one, like, I still have like a fruit that still goes, like, I'm trying to get him out. But I mean, it's his own decision. He's a grown. Yeah, like, so with the whole fruit thing, that's like a whole, like, that could be a topic for a whole another day. The whole fruit bearing, the mental dynamic in which that has, it's like, it's insane. Like, you're real, like, literally, when you go out preaching, when you're going door to door preaching, you're going mall preaching, you're going campus preaching, like, your intention is to get somebody baptized today.
Yeah.
Like, you want to get somebody baptized today. And it wasn't so much like that in the early days. In the earlier days, like the first half of my time in the church, it was, you want to bring up Sabbath day first. You don't want to bring up God the Mother first, or else it'll probably freak him out. No, it was first thing, Sabbath. Like, the Sabbath day, Passover, and then Mother will be brought up. That's how it was before. But
And
then,
then
like,
now it's kind of like going hot. Like, have you heard of Mother?
Yeah, then they changed like it was around the 10 talent movement in like 2009, 2010. Right around that time, I don't know if you remember, Tony, but I don't know how how Denver did it. But it was like, yeah, like God the Mother. That's like the first thing you're supposed to be preaching now. Like, have you heard of God the Mother? Revelation 22:17, Revelation 21:9, and Galatians 4:26, and Genesis 1:26 through 28. Like those were like the four verses. Like the first four verses were ever like we're supposed to show anybody when we're going out preaching. The funny thing is like,
about it.
Say it again, Tony.
I'm sorry. You go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say, when you're going out preaching, like you're doing door-to-door preaching, you're out preaching to students on a campus, you're trying to buy their time, right? This is only gonna take 5 minutes. Like you just, I'm doing a project, I'm doing a survey for my Bible study club, right? That's how we're introducing ourselves, and we're like, yeah, I promise you, this is only gonna take like 3 to 5 minutes. I'm only gonna show you like a couple of verses. And a lot of the times it'll end up being like a 30-minute, 40-minute conversation.
And you already know that. You already know you're going to catch
that's
them
what
for
you
a
want.
long time.
Yeah.
Trying to keep them there as long as you can.
Exactly. Yep. You want to study, you're trying to get them baptized that day. That's so much effort you're putting into this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going into these, you're like, we say the battlefield. We're going into the battlefield. And we're like at war right now with Satan, and we're trying to save our lost brothers and sisters, right?
I would just like to point out that Jordan, we haven't shown Jordan what we've said already that we recorded before this. So Jordan, we said it's so fascinating that you are hitting points that Tony hit when she kind of introduced all of this.
It's exactly the same.
Such a similar experience.
Yeah.
Me and Jordan have never met each other before, and he's all the way in California, and we're in Denver, and it's exactly the same.
Yeah, like 10 years younger, totally different like location.
But same life. We had the same life.
Yep. And so like with that, like you're going and you're having that mindset, like especially during I went to a mission trip. It was like for 2 weeks going to Fresno, and like we're trying to establish a house church. There's literally 0 members in Fresno other than the 2 couples that they sent to start the house church. And so like with this mission trip, that was a crazy experience because I'm going like 5 hours away from home. And this is like the furthest I've ever been away from home at this point in my life. Like I've lived in a bubble all my life, I haven't really gone out and never traveled anywhere. So we go to Fresno, and I'm at this point, like I'm 16 years old, I'm still like pre-adult.
Yeah.
So that was door-to-door preaching and campus preaching on steroids.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like we would start preaching at like 8:30, 9 in the morning, and we weren't stopping until 7 or 8 at night. Sometimes 9 o'clock, like we'll be on the campuses. That was pretty crazy. Like my shoes, because it gets really hot in Fresno as well. It gets really hot. My shoes, like the bottom of it, like had burned completely through, like where it made like there was no more bottom. There was no more sole.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it had melted.
It
had melted like all the way.
Yeah, you go through a lot of shoes.
You go through a lot of shoes.
But you can't wear tennis shoes. You can't wear tennis shoes. You have to wear like pretty preaching shoes, So it's like, but you're walking like miles and miles. I wish I had a Fitbit then. I didn't have one.
So they were a little bit more lenient with us. I wore tennis shoes a lot. But during the mission trip, I did wear dress shoes every day because that's all I didn't bring any tennis shoes. It was a mission trip. This is like amazing. Like we're establishing a house church. I'm trying to look my best, in terms of, wearing a dress shirt and slacks every day. As to when I come to church from work, I'm probably wearing jeans. I'm wearing tennis shoes. I'm wearing a polo, But during the mission trip, but during the mission trip, it was like, this is like, we're ready to go. Like we're suited up. Like it was a totally different vibe than regular preaching, like the standard regular preaching throughout the week, like the
It's
mission
like more
trips. Like,
urgent.
yeah. If you've been on a
Mission
mission trip,
preaching and feast preaching. When you're preaching during the feast, it's like the same
yes,
kind of feeling because you're
yes,
trying to get the Holy Spirit. You have like a certain amount of time, like 7 days or 10 days, and where
yeah.
you're just like really intense preaching as much as you can.
It's so funny. Like so after what? After the Feast of Pentecost, you're supposed to receive the Holy Spirit. And I remember like after that, after the day of Pentecost, um, everybody would want to go preaching like right after the afternoon worship, which was the last like worship of the day for the for the day of Pentecost.
Oh,
So like, do you remember that, Tony? Like as soon as everybody received the Holy Spirit, right, on the
yeah.
day of Pentecost, like right
Yeah.
after afternoon worship, everybody, all right, let's group up, let's have a preaching
Yeah.
meeting, and let's go to UCLA, let's go to USC, let's go to CSUN, let's go preach at these campuses. Because right now it's like the best time. We have the Holy Spirit, so like now's the time. And if you're not going preaching, like, oh, it's frowned upon. Like like people look at you different. Like you're just gonna go home. You just received the Holy Spirit. What are you doing? Like you're kind of like pressured into it. Like there's this like peer pressure around you. Like this pressure coming from the church. Like you just got the Holy Spirit. Now it's time to put in the work, and go preaching.
Tony, is that exactly the point that you just read from the Stephen Hassan book?
Yeah, for sure.
When you hear this whole thing in the beginning, you'll hear Tony like connects that to like a very
perfect
tactic from that Steve Hassan points out.
Yeah. So interesting.
So like in the house church, like somebody tried breaking in. We're in Fresno. Like one night, somebody tried breaking in. Like this was not the best neighborhood. This was not I can tell like our missionary pastor did not know what neighborhood this was. They just saw Fresno on Google Maps. They looked at the street and it looks good. Like it looks like a very well put together suburban neighborhood, but like it was riddled with gang violence, and it's not the safest city. Yeah, and it was so weird because every like Sabbath and every day, like all these people are looking at us like we just got this house, and they're looking at all these people in suits going and coming in and out, and it's just like it was like really weird.
You guys stuck out like a sore thumb in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely.
Wow.
Okay. Do you guys want to hear this anonymous message?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So this was sent to us, a preaching story. Okay. In New York City, I guess the location is. Okay, that's it. In New York City, the weather gets very cold, especially considering it is surrounded by water. Preaching in New York City was mostly preaching outside since there weren't many indoor locations. We would sometimes go to Grand Central and Penn Station, and now the Oculus downtown in order to stay warm. But having too many members in one spot was bad, and we would have to spend a lot of the time walking the streets. Manhattan dress code for preaching was always suit, even on Sundays, usually paired with an overcoat and whatever preaching style preaching bag you'd have, which any given member would have a whole library in it, and it would weigh like 15 pounds. Back then, we were told by leaders that brothers cannot go preaching with a winter hat on because you can't preach with your head covered. So we all wore those stupid earmuffs that weren't behind that went behind the head. Years later, the pastor corrected that and said that was not true. We can wear a hat. But he didn't think the severity of the weather there really warranted it. While preaching in this icy weather and having such little sleep and going from early morning at work straight to church to preaching, then dinner, then studying, and leaving most nights after 12 a.m. when the subway was very limited and my commute was over about an hour and change, my body's immune system was extremely compromised, and you're exposed to a lot of germs in NYC. One day I had been preaching outside all day. I was out preaching, nose running, shivering, and trying to talk through a cough. And this one businessman said, "Yeah, I'm not interested, but please take care of your health. You have a cough and it's freezing out. Please get some rest and stay warm." It was more care and concern from a New Yorker than from God's church. And then there was another message this person wanted me to explain. One other thing to mention is I recall back in the day they used to push us to do a 3-day fasting, no food or drink. And even as weak and tired as we were on the last day, they sent us around New York City to preach. Every 2 blocks I had to sit and rest. But since then they've stopped that 3-day fast request, but leaders still participate when advised to. Just like from Passover to unleavened bread, it was supposed to be stay up all night with no food until afternoon worship. It was too much to ask, so they stopped that. So that was the anonymous message. It actually makes me feel so sad.
I know.
That person, that's a tough life to live.
Ooh, well, thank you. Thank you to Anonymous.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was a really it kind of paints a picture of what it was like in New York City to preach. I mean, Jordan has experience in California and Colorado, and now we have New York City, and it's all the same, and it's also abusive and mentally abusive and physically abusive. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, on that happy note there.
I know.
Jordan, do you have anything else that you want to add on to this episode, or are you?
I think I have a few
nice
more.
and deflated like we are now.
That was sad.
It's so great. Like when he was like, "Please take care of your health."
Yeah.
Because like looking back at like the health quality of members, like it's not good mentally and physically. Like, well, like you have pretty good cardio, like with walking everywhere, but that's about it. Like that's what's keeping everybody alive, probably. It's a cardio. But other than that, like
we're only laughing because we want to cry, really. But it's true. Like your health is not good. It's just like preach the gospel, preach the gospel, preach the gospel.
Right. The sleep deprivation added with the with the lack of care for your guys' safety.
Yeah, in the mission trips, like we were told to do the fast, like do the 3-day fast.
Yeah.
And like I got through it. I got through 3 days. And
how old were you when you did a 3-day fast? You guys, 3-day fast is no food and no water.
I was 16, and this was the Fresno trip. And I took it upon myself to do it. After that, like a couple of us, like members, we went to like go get some milkshakes afterwards after the fast, because if you like ate solid food like right after, it was like supposedly it's like really unhealthy for your body.
Like super porridge or something.
Yeah, soup. You're gonna eat some soup. All right, you guys. Thank you for having me.
Jordan, take care. We'll see you soon. Okay, tell your wife hi.
I will.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll stay in touch. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for doing this. We're just going to introduce you and say,
all right.
Jeremy's here. Our friend Jeremy's here to talk about his preaching story. Okay, here you go, Jeremy.
And Jeremy's from Chicago, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, from Chicago. Was originally in the church in San Diego when I was in school, and then moved back after I was no longer attending school or playing football, so I had to move back home to Chicago, unfortunately. But yeah, my story is actually having to do with Chicago, especially in the campus mission. Because where I was in Chicago was downtown, so it was mostly centered on the universities and kind of downtown workers. So whether it was on lunch break, trying to catch someone that's, their minds were running 1,000 miles per second, to stop them, tell them about the Bible. But most of it was campus mission. And the story that I want to talk about is mainly for awareness and for college students to kind of be more aware, because the tactics that the Church of God uses are deceptive and lies up front. So never did we ever say that we were from the World Mission Society Church of God. We were actually instructed specifically never to say our church name, for the mere fact that people can Google us And they always worry, college people, right? They always are Googling the first train of thought, kind of double checking things nowadays. So we had to go under false pretenses of Melchizedek Bible Study Club. The first one was actually Elohim Academy, but we were told right away to stop Elohim Academy. Then it was Melchizedek Bible Study Club, and then it turned into, well, we just have a club on campus, so we're trying to invite new people. And most of the time, we didn't even have students there yet. So, it never sat well with me, kind of just like lying up front to people we're trying to bring into the church, but we're not really telling them why we're there. And then we started using a survey, kind of like, we got a survey that we're doing for a class, like we're in theological school. And I'm not sure if you guys ever had or said that kind of line, but we were instructed to, like all these different kind of methods to approach people. So we had asked them to fill out this 5 question survey, and then whatever they chose on the last question, we gave them the 4 topics leading into either weeds and wheat, Daniel's prophecy, the seal of God, and what was the heavenly family, earthly family, or Jerusalem mother. One of those 4 Bible studies. So we had them kind of set up of where we wanted to lead them into. And one of the years that it was my second year back in Chicago, and we had kind of like a campus mission set up for all the universities around Chicago. And I was in charge of DePaul University, and we wanted to establish a club there. We had no students baptized there. So me and this one brother, who's now a deacon, we went to meet with the campus minister there and wanted to kind of see the steps in setting up a club on campus, get the requirements. And she kept asking us, what branch were we part of? What were our beliefs? And we'd give her the bare minimum. And then finally, we had I think it was our second or third meeting. It wasn't just one meeting we had with her. But then when we came back, she was just so livid to the point where she's like, you guys, we're not honest with me up front. You guys are on the top watch list at this university. You're cult, the World Mission Society Church of God.
Damn.
Because you guys come here under false pretenses. All the reviews online, you guys are in all these different lawsuits with courts, and we don't want any part of that. So completely threw me in this brother off guard. This lady just straight up was like, you're the number 1 watch list at this university, and started breaking down the reasons as far as lying up front to people, what we do, our practices, and then also the lawsuits that she brought up that they did not want any part of. So, us trying to establish even a church in Chicago, was so difficult, not just for, DePaul. Loyola was really tough too, because these are all DePaul's Catholic, Loyola, that's a Jesuit university. So them trying to establish club there never really kind of crossed my mind that, if they're trying to set up a club or what they call a Bible church. Any church that's established on a university as a club, they count as a church, and there's 7,000 churches worldwide to kind of boost their numbers up, which I'm not sure if you guys knew that. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they count the Bible study clubs as churches, which is bogus because there's no third day service, there's no Sabbath day service.
Right.
It's
right.
just somewhere their students can come study, but they counted toward that. But yeah, as far as the clubs on campus goes, they're trying to set up clubs inside of Babylon, which they say, is the house of demons, but they're trying to have the same worships in these places that have crosses, all this idolatry. DePaul is the Blue Demons, for Christ's sake, their mascot. But it's kind of just hypocritical. But we still had to go preach on campus. We just never went to the buildings. So how DePaul is, Chicago, it's like if you guys have ever been to New York or any type of big city, there's a lot of side streets, there's buildings, and as long as you don't go inside of the buildings itself and you're just catching students that are coming out of the buildings, then that was our preaching style from there.
So they're still secretly preaching to the same people, just doing it a different way.
Yeah, they don't care if they're kicked out of places, even malls. I don't know if it was like that with you guys in Colorado, but until they get the official letter, there was one university in, I think it's Benedictine or North Central, one of the two, that sent an official letter banning the Church of God from coming on their campus. So until it gets to that point, they'll still send people just trying to figure out secretive ways
It's interesting because we would never know about that. Like they would never tell us, oh, we were banned from this, college or whatever. They would never expose that.
Oh yeah, no, they would
Interesting.
just mention something like, oh no, we're gonna go somewhere else today. It's not
Yeah,
until you actually
yeah.
become like in a leadership like role
Yeah.
that you find these things out. So as a new
Yeah.
member, they will probably hear this and be like, no way, like that's not
Yeah.
true. But as
Yeah.
you continue to progress and you find these things out, it's just different methods, and it's all
Yeah.
like secretive. And like
Yeah.
if you really think about it, it's like even 2,000 years ago, Jesus and the apostles, after Jesus, like the apostles would just go out and preach in the name of Jesus, proclaim him. But it's this like secretive hiding techniques of the Church of God. Not explaining about mother, not explaining about outside home right away. It's just different tactics to lure them in, and then delivering that after you've kind of built their faith up a little bit enough where you think that, okay, this is going to lead them to baptism. At least that's like how it was in Chicago. And kind of in San Diego too. I mean, I studied for like a week and then was baptized, and it wasn't about outside home right away. It was all about the Catholic Church, Daniel 2:7, Revelation 13, 17, 18, and then the video Babylon the Great, all on the first day. So I'm just like, man, I never want to be Catholic.
So they just scared the shit out of you, and then
exactly.
you're like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's that fear tactic. It's just like, oh, so you
Yeah.
want to be a part of this, or do you want to be a part of all these good people here that show all this love to you, you have the truth kind of thing? And who else knows about this? Like nobody. But when you actually do your research, a lot of other churches do teach what they're teaching. So it's just kind of like another lie that they tell. But yeah.
We had all just been chatting that one night, and we were like, there's so many. You guys all have so many preaching stories. Let's do this on the podcast.
Yeah, that was perfect.
There's a ton. Yeah. I mean, that was just like the main one that stuck into my head, to be honest. And the other one about the Wisconsin, the sex trafficking, but like, that was because of Colorado. Like, we had to clean up Colorado's mess on that one.
Can you kind of tell that story? Is that okay, Lindsay?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So
right.
like, yeah. So back, that was the end of 2017. It was like,
I don't know if can you like tell the whole like sex trafficking thing? Because I don't know if anybody knows any of that.
Okay. So like, back in the end of 2017, there was a lot of tweets going around viral that the Mother God Church, I forgot what the initial one was, but it was people inviting to a Bible study about Mother God are involved in sex trafficking. And this started going freaking viral all over Twitter. And Anthony told me it started down in Florida, but it got really, really big in Wisconsin. And that's when Chicago was called, because Colorado, they had a short-term preaching mission to Wisconsin, or Minnesota, Wisconsin up there. Don't know why. They kind of just did their thing. And so then there was a bunch of tweets going viral saying that, the sex trafficking is happening in Wisconsin. Mother God called us here. Like, watch out. And they were taking pictures of members and how they were preaching. So then our pastor calls me and two other deacons to like go up to Wisconsin, a 4-hour drive that day, to go talk to the police and asked like to take these tweets down on Twitter. And so I mean, I know, because like my dad's a high-ranking like cop in Chicago, and my brother's a cop. I'm like, they don't care. Like, they're not going to do anything about Twitter, and like, you weren't there, so like, how are we going to be like held responsible or give any type of input? And like, you don't say that to pastor, but like in your head, you kind of know like what to expect. So we go up there, meet with the cops, and they sit us down. And the first thing this guy said is like, after when we explained why we were there, asking them to like take down this stuff, the cop said, listen, we don't know who you guys are, what you guys are teaching. You guys come in here all secretive. If you just told us who you guys were, what your message was about, and everything, we would have let you guys stay, been okay. But we had over 30 calls alone of harassment. People saying they were inviting them into minivans to come and drink wine. This looks like, so in my head, I'm like, this minivan, coming and drink wine like that. I mean, I'm not a parent, but if I was a parent, I would never teach my kids to go do that. And they have to teach that in DARE class. To not like, if you guys ever took DARE in school, like they say, like, never go with a stranger. But
Tony won the reward for DARE. She ran the journalist report.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah.
I think DARE,
DARE did well for me.
Yeah, DARE does more harm than good, I feel like sometimes. But with that being said, like this cop was like, if you guys would just explain why you're here, then no problem. But we had over 30 calls of harassment. People, you're inviting people to go into minivans to drink wine, and there was an underage kid that you guys invited in there. So yeah, that's why we're gonna go call. But since you guys are, not being upfront, we have no idea who you are. I don't think it's good to get set up here ever again. And so like I was just like, all right, yeah, respect kind of thing. But like I got rebuked for that because I didn't like defend like the church and kind of give more input, like fight back, to like take like these tweets down, and like cops have nothing to do with Twitter, like so. So like at the end of the day, we're driving back, and like yeah, when we got back, like Pastor asked and stuff like what's going on, and we told him, and asking me to kind of monitor the tweets, the Twitter, the comments. And finding out that there's this internet team that's comprised of like leaders where there's different leaders kind of creating fake accounts or checking all the mentions on Twitter, YouTube, and commenting and kind of just defending the church. So at that point, there was already a lot of stuff that was going on as far as questions not being answered, and I was kind of just checked out at that point where I'm like, what are we doing? We have to like monitor what people are saying. Like if you actually look at it, the Bible does say like to avoid like those kind of chatters. The truth should defend the truth. It shouldn't be put in that situation where you need to monitor what other people are saying or cover up what they do by building all these different websites, and all of a sudden all these YouTube videos that are
what would Jesus do? Would Jesus create websites? No.
What I think Jeremy is gonna go do, like turn off Twitter. What do they
I
want?
know.
No, like
Go
for
like
real.
calm Twitter down, please, Jeremy.
It's just it was so far out there.
Go to Wisconsin and talk to the local police and have them take the tweets down. Like that's how that works.
Yeah, exactly.
But that rumor spread like all over that, if we were involved in sex trafficking.
Yeah,
but it's
so like that.
true, though. I mean, not as true. Not the sex trafficking is true, but the you can't approach a bunch of people,
young kids.
Come learn about Mother God at our church. You want to get baptized? Come into my van with candy. Like it felt very like.
Well, they would do like remote baptisms, like in their bus or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, like we never did that. So like
we did in Denver.
That's what Chad told me. When Chad told me that, I was like, bro, like I would never get in a minivan like that.
It was like a bus.
It's exactly
they converted into a baptism room.
Yeah. See, was that your pastor's idea? Because like our pastor straight up, Pastor, he was living when he heard that part.
Really?
Like, we don't do that. Who's doing that? Like he was.
Yeah, we would baptize in parks, and people would just be standing around watching us. Hi, Kelsey. We can see you. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say we baptized like at universities. Like if there was a park nearby, we would do like by the fountain there, but like never like in a minivan. So like that's why pastor lived. Like we don't do that. Like slam the table. Like really
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, so they get mad at each other.
That's a good practice. Good job.
Yeah.
No, it's wild stuff. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Those are some 2 stories. Right
Jeremy, thank you so much. And you guys don't know much about Jeremy because we haven't had him on. So hopefully one day soon Jeremy will come on and tell like his whole story if he wants to. One day he has an open invitation whenever he's ready or wants to.
Sure.
Do you guys want to talk with Kelsey now about her preaching story?
Yeah.
All right, Kelsey.
Hi, Kelsey.
Thank you for coming back on again. That's so awesome. Thanks for giving us so much time and energy and space to talk with us.
I know Kelsey's always working. She's always doing interviews, and like it's awesome. She stays so busy.
I just go if somebody asks me.
That's awesome. I love it.
All of you guys.
You're doing important work. Yeah.
That's so cool. Right, so yeah, we'll hand it over to you, Kelsey. You just tell us all your preaching stories.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I got 10 years worth of preaching stories, but there's like, okay, so like I kind of wanted to kind of piggyback off of something that Jeremy said, with, preaching in the university, like you aren't allowed to be there. So what they tell us to do is to kind of like not stay in one place too long, but to go in and out of buildings. So like I know like for in where I was, I mean, we went to the public university, so we could actually be there. But at malls, you know, we weren't allowed to preach at malls because it was soliciting. And so they would always tell us like, don't stay in one place too long. Make sure you're like you try to focus more on outside, but you know, go in and out of the building. And then and sit down. Like if you meet somebody and they're like, yeah, you can show me one verse or so, then you say, oh, can we sit down real quick? And so that you're not like standing up with a Bible and you stand out. So yeah. But that being said, I've been kicked out of many a mall and many a community college. Just for, again, you know, at the malls, I was told I'm ruining the customer shopping and dining experience. It actually got to the point where we were even considering like carrying around like a shopping bag and just putting our Bible in it so we look like customers. But I started preaching when I was 18 years old. And so just like looking back now, the situations they put us in, it's like it's crazy. 18 years old in Seattle, sometimes even preaching by myself. Or preaching so late into the night that when I had to take the, you know, buses, not one bus, but it was like minimum like 3 buses to go back home, I was, you know, walking the back streets of Seattle midnight, you know, 12:30. I'm surprised I've never been robbed. I mean, it was crazy. But there's like one story that I have that will always stand out in my mind, because I was 18 years old. And I was a broke college student who worked at the mall. And but that particular day, I used to work for Proactive, the acne medicine, and they have a stand in the mall. Or like at the time they had a stand in like every mall. And so I was at a mall and I was preaching with another church member. Again, I'm 18 years old, like short, and I was with a really tall, almost 40-year-old Korean man. Okay. So we didn't look like we were like besties walking through the mall. Okay. Like we definitely, like, you know, we definitely stood out in and of itself right there. Okay. But I remember we went up to one guy and he had the Bible. He was like sitting in a chair with his friend and he had the Bible open. So of course, you know, my eagle eye was like, let's go to that guy because he's got the Bible open. And this gentleman, I'm not sure who he was, but he very, very much resembled like a little Richard kind of figure. He looked like Little Richard, sounded very much like Little Richard. I mean, like mannerisms and everything, voice, mannerisms. I don't know who he was, never asked his name. But of course I didn't know that until I went up to him. And I was like, have you ever heard of God the Mother in the Bible? And this guy just starts so he lets us show us the verses, and then after we're done, he starts going into this spiel like he's like with like the Little Richard kind of voice. He's like, the Lord deliver me from, you know, alcoholism, homosexuality, and all. He starts listing a whole bunch of stuff. And by that time, we're like, oh, this dude's getting loud. And so we're like, okay, have a nice night kind of thing, right? So we walk away. And so we walk away, and I get to like maybe 15 feet away from like not the kiosk where I worked, because I worked at a different mall, but it was one that I subbed at, you know, a couple of times. We get like 15 feet away from there, and this friend comes up to us and says, hey, I'm really sorry about my friend. You know, he just gets really worked up about the Bible. And then we were just like, oh, okay, no problem. But the thing is, again, I'm 18 years old, right? So I don't have what they call discernment in the church. Okay, so I said, for some reason, I said, what if I told you second coming Christ already came? Yeah, and his name is An Sang Hong, and that set this guy off to the point where he made a scene too, and then a security guard came and was like, you all need to leave, all of you. And so we're like, oh, okay, we'll leave. But of course, like when you go preaching with the church, like you're not driving, most of the time you're not driving your own car. There's like one person or a couple people who are the drivers, and everybody piles into their cars, right? So I mean, obviously I hadn't driven, the person I was with hadn't driven, and there were other people at the mall. So we couldn't just like leave, right? So what we do in those cases is we just continue preaching. We just try to stay away from that security guard who told us that we need to leave, right? So, I mean, that's what we did. We continue preaching, but again, we stand out because we don't look like we're like, going shopping, right? Plus, this dude had just caused this really loud scene. So we keep going, and sure enough, we get caught again. And the person was like, "You really have to leave." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll leave." But again, we kept going, kept preaching. And then the third time we got caught, and we got caught at the other end of the mall. This is a big mall. We got caught at the other end of the mall, and they said this time, okay, we have to escort you to your vehicle. Because, when you get kicked out a certain amount of times, like, there's stages, right? And so at that time, again, we hadn't driven, so I had to call the deaconess, and I was like, hey, we got kicked out. And she's like, oh, just go outside. And I'm like, that's not gonna work this time. Like, we actually have to, they're escorting us to the car. And she's like, oh, okay. And then but the thing is they made us, because again, we were at the other end of the mall from where we parked. So they made us walk outside and followed us all the way to the car. But at some point along the line, somebody had come up to ask them a question. And so we kept walking. And so they called for backup to continue following us. And then, so they literally watched us get in the car, took the license plate number, and said, don't come back. But of course we came back. But it's just, that one will always stick in my head because it was like this little Richard kind of guy right outside my work with people I knew, and then getting backup mall security called on me. Yeah. And
Kelsey,
so,
you and Tony have kind of a similar, like, from what I've met of you, you guys have like a similar spirit. This seems so opposite of what I imagine you guys are naturally like as people. Like
to approach strangers
and
oh yeah,
getting like escorted out of a mall, like that just is so. You guys just don't seem like the kind of people. Like you guys are doing what I was doing in my 20s, but with bars. Being escorted out of bars, but at malls. But you guys just don't seem to have that. It's just so
You
bizarre.
can't imagine us getting handcuffed at Walmart for preaching.
No, it's so weird.
I've never gotten arrested.
Me neither. I've never been arrested.
A picture of my license taken down. I've been put on a board of a community college, asked not to return twice. But I've never been arrested. So, but when I was a member, I would, if they told me to keep going there when I wasn't supposed to go, I would have kept going there if the church told me to do it.
For sure.
And if you had gotten arrested, would you have been like, see my faith?
I would have been like, this is a blessing for the kingdom of heaven.
Wow.
I'm like Apostle Paul.
Yeah.
Wow.
Getting arrested and being in jail.
Yeah.
Has anybody known anybody to be arrested or have gone to jail for preaching stuff?
Like I got somebody arrested for he sucker punched my preaching partner in downtown. It was wild, all right. So we're at DePaul University, the downtown campus on State Street in Jackson. And if you go to that neighborhood, our office church was maybe 2 blocks west of there. And there's cops there every single night because it's a huge drug spot in the South Loop of Chicago. So it's not good. And that's why I was so concerned about the sisters leaving meeting super late at night, because it's not the best neighborhood, but it's not the worst. We're preaching there, and my partner, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was really eager to preach. He was maybe a year baptized at this point. I've been in for quite a while, and he's going up to every single person, not really caring about what they look like. And I'm sure everyone that's preached here, you kind of, if you have the option, you're not door to door, you kind of pick who you kind of want to approach. You know what I mean? If this person looks kind of like he's having a bad day, I'm not going to approach him. I'd rather approach someone that looks like someone I can relate to. So, but he's going up to every single person. And there was this one guy that was just not having it, kind of like Kelsey was just explaining, like kind of flipping out, like, who that would you say? Like, he said, second coming Christ, like, and so like I had to like tell Arturo, like, hey, like, let's go. And I told the guy, hey man, like, we're just inviting people to our new church. You have a great day, like, take care, man, like, to kind of end the conversation. Thought we were done. So we keep going on to preach, and I'm talking to this one guy right of me, just watching me preach to this one guy. All of a sudden, just a right hook comes across and just lands on Turtle right on the chin. It was so bad. He dropped, and so like there's people that kind of got up, stood, but like I like threw my stuff down. And I sprinted after this guy, and like no joke, like 2 blocks over on Van Buren and Wabash. Van Buren and Wabash. There's a Dunkin' Donuts. And these 2 cops like just come on to Dunkin' Donuts as I'm chasing this guy.
So stereotypical, man.
Yeah.
And so like they got the guy and stuff like that, and then we had to like fill out police reports, and it was
That's
like
crazy.
Big,
He got a lot of blessings that day.
Oh no, like he told a friend afterwards, kind of like how you asked, like, did you feel like you'd be blessed? Chad's like laughing. I'm like, bro, like I still have like this in my head. I felt so
That's
bad.
like traumatic. I mean,
yeah.
You do kind of fear violence. You fear violence.
I'm laughing because all of this is about like the person who threw the punch, it's all in the name of Jesus, and then the person who's getting hit, it's all in the name of On Song Hong. It is like the violence over the Bible, man. Like, that's why it's just so ironic to me, and that's why I'm laughing. I'm like,
man. Oh, yeah, no, I got you, dude. Like, it really is about that. People really take it really serious, you know?
Yeah,
especially,
man.
Like,
don't talk about religion or politics.
Yeah.
In Portland, we had that. I think it was in 2012. We had that mall shooting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then so we had church members at the mall that day when that happened, and one of them was shot at.
And then
this is a crazy story.
Yeah.
Can you explain that shooting? I don't know, in Denver. We heard about it. It was on the national news, but
yeah, and well, the church blasted it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was a Passover story.
Yeah, the power of the Passover.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. So it was at a mall called Clackamas, which is in it's in the Portland metropolitan area, a little bit north of Portland, and it's like maybe 5 minutes away from where the church is located. And so like that day was it was a third day that day, and there were 2 members that had gone to the mall for preaching in the afternoon, and I had just gotten to the church because I just got off work. And it was weird because I remember seeing like armed vehicles going down the freeway as I was headed to the church, but I didn't make anything of it until I got to the church. And then the overseer's wife said, hey, like, there's some crazy guy at the mall, and I need you to go pick up the 2 members who are there. And so
There's a crazy guy. You go get him.
She did go
I'm
with
sorry.
me.
I'm so
She
sorry.
did
Okay.
go with me to go do that though.
That's fair.
But, yeah. So I didn't interpret that as mall shooting. I just because like when we go preaching, we meet tons of interesting people, right? Just like the story I just shared, right? We meet tons of interesting people, across all walks of life. So I had assumed it was just somebody who was like making a scene, or like just like following them, right? Because sometimes we get followed too. And so so when I got to the mall, everything's like you can't enter the mall. Everything's just like all cut off. And then we picked them up at an apartment complex like across the street. And then I found out what happened, right? What happened was like I guess the shooter had walked through Macy's, and like when you walk through Macy's, it's like this big open area that eventually leads to like the food court. And on one side there's like a jewelry store, another side something else. And so she told me that she was standing right in front of Macy's, and she had the Bible open, and she was preaching, and she had a big white like puffy kind of jacket on. And she saw this guy with a gun point a gun at her, and she thought, this member was Korean, right? So, in Korea, they're always taught like America's so dangerous. So she thought like this is some kind of like joke or something. She didn't, probably shock, right? didn't think it was like really happening. And then so her instinct was to like cover her head and like duck. And when she covered her head, the bullet went through her arm. I mean, not her arm, but the jacket on her
sleeve.
Arm, right? Yeah, her sleeve. Yeah. And it left like because she had a white jacket on, so you could see like kind of like, I don't know if it's the right terms, like the burn marks or whatnot, but it went through it. Okay. You could see it. And then they were at the mall for, you know, a couple more hours because it was locked down, and they had the two members who were there had gotten separated and all of the stuff, and one of them like ended up in like a jewelry store, the other one ended up somewhere else, but it was super traumatic as you can imagine, right? And so I picked them up, you know, we kept third day
As usual.
At the appointed time.
Yeah, kept third day at the appointed time. And came back, cleaned the church first, and then kept third day at the appointed time. And I remember that evening the overseer was like, you should call people and tell them like power the Passover, right? She kept the Passover, and the bullet literally passed over her. And so, you know, that's what a lot of us did. And then sure enough, like a few days later, because they had closed the mall for a couple of days. But, you know, as soon as it opened back up, you know, we were told like, hey, let's go to Clackamas to continue preaching. Yeah. I mean, and Clackamas, like, I mean, I haven't been to Clackamas since I was, you know, a member of the church. But you know, they had like they still had the bullet holes in the ground. And so, because there were a couple people who died in that shooting.
Yeah.
And so there were like, you could still see, up until I left in end of 2017, you could still see the bullet holes in the ground. And so they never fixed those. And so, I mean, it's just, I mean, for me, I wasn't even there when the shooting was taking place. And I was like, well, maybe we should pick a different mall, guys. But the people that were actually there at the time, they came for that preaching meeting. And they, you know, we all had to go to Clackamas to preach. And so it was just like, you know, I mean, I don't know anything behind the scenes, but, you know, in front of everybody, even to the side, I didn't really see like anything like, hey, are you okay? Or, hey, do you need like a little bit of a break? Like, I never saw anything like that. Not to say it didn't happen. I personally didn't see anything like that. So
did the sister was she interviewed, the sister?
No, not like not interviewed by like like an actual media source. It like, I mean, they did an interview with her on New Song Radio, and then John Gil-Jog gave like a sermon that was passed around to the churches about the event. She had to take a picture of her jacket and send it into Korea so that they could use it.
Because everybody watches New Song Radio, and that's a real news source.
The reason I'm asking, like, was it like, I mean, did you see the jacket yourself when you picked them up? Yeah, that was like, it went through and stuff.
No, I was, I mean, because like the
that is so scary.
I mean, the person it happened to, I was very close to that person. And so like I helped her prep for that New Song Radio interview. I mean, I helped her with a lot of the prep work for passing on that information. And so, no, I mean, it was like, she was like legit. I mean, I wasn't there obviously, but I mean, she did have a bullet hole. She's not the kind of person that would, make that story up. Yeah.
Yeah, but Kelsey, you were there in the aftermath of it, like rolling up to go pick up your friends at a fucking game. That's terrifying.
How many people died there?
That's some kind of trauma. That sucks.
Well, and it's crazy to throw them back into that same area and be like, all right, go back and preach, and like go face your fears. Like, just making them believe in the Passover that much. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. God. Like walk past the area where somebody had literally died.
Relive the experience.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, and again, I didn't even, they told me, oh, there's a crazy guy at the mall, and I didn't even think twice, just because we had been so desensitized to that kind of thing, right? I mean, how many, I'm sure you guys, met somebody kind of like mentally unstable when preaching, and they either follow you or say something crazy or start yelling, like.
And people would be like, oh, that guy had a good mind. He was believing everything I said. And then you find out after they're baptized, like, oh, no, that dude's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a good story, Kelsey.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Thank you, Kelsey, for sharing.
Is there anything else you want to say for preaching?
I mean, it's just that, again, just to reiterate the situations that we're placed in, like Jeremy said, like going home late at night, taking the bus super late, and these areas that aren't very, like Chicago. I mean, come on, I'm not even from Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, but I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, me too, like Seattle, like the U district. I know you guys don't have that frame of reference for it, but at the time, like it was not a great place to be in, the middle of the night by yourself, 18 years old. I mean, being asked to preach by myself, multiple, even going door to door by myself, 18, 19 years old, right? There's like another time where I was preaching in off of Killingsworth in Portland, which is not a great, which I didn't know was not a great area until we were preaching, and like we were preaching there at night, and literally everyone was like, "Hey, stay safe. This area is not that great." And I was, "Oh, okay, it's fine."
Stay safe. It's okay. I have the seal of God.
But we had so many appointments in that area. I mean, there were so many people that were willing to listen. So we would keep coming back. And I remember one time we came back, and I'm like carrying my laptop because there was one person there that she had gotten baptized during a mission trip, but she didn't speak a lot of English. She spoke Vietnamese. So I would bring my computer because I would, show like new songs, like not new songs, show the UCC space videos, right? And so so I would bring, so I had that in my hand, and we were walking from her house to one of the community colleges, and some guy came up to us, and he's like, "You need to cash out in my neighborhood." And I was like, what does cash out in my neighborhood mean? Because I'm like, the thing is I was with like the overseer's wife, and she was Korean, right? So her tactic when somebody strange comes up to you is just to not talk to them, right? But my tactic is very opposite. My tactic is being overly friendly. So I was like, "Oh, what does that mean?" And then so he starts following us. He's like, "This is my neighborhood. You need to cash out." He follows us the whole way. And so I told the overseer's wife in Korean, I said, "Hey, let's go to the bathroom." Because in my head, I'm like, "Oh, he can't follow us to the bathroom." Which in hindsight, I'm like, that's absolutely stupid. That just backs us into a corner. But like, I mean, that dude was trying to rob us.
Did it work? Did he follow you to the bathroom?
No, he didn't follow us into the bathroom.
Oh, thank God. But yeah, that's scary. You're in so many dangerous situations.
You're not equipped to deal with that kind of stuff.
No, you're not.
Like, and I was only like 21 maybe at the time. Like, it's just like the amount of like unsafe situations that I allow myself to be put into, because we were told that if you didn't preach, you wouldn't be part of the 144,000.
Yeah.
And so, and if they said, if your goal is not to be part of the 144,000, what's the point of even coming to the church?
Right.
So meaning, like, if you want to be a member in good standing in the church, you have to preach. But you don't get it, at least in my Zions, you don't get a choice of where you want to go preaching. You're told you go to this location. And there was one time where I said, like, I didn't want to go to there was one time in Seattle where I didn't want to go to the location they wanted me to go to, and I didn't want to preach with the person they wanted me to preach with. I wanted to go visit someone that I had met that got baptized. I wanted to go with the deaconess for that, but she told me, no, you need to go preaching door to door with this person. And so I said, no, I really want to go. And then, I kid you not, the overseer pulled me aside and says, okay, I'm thinking of canceling your trip to Korea since you're being disobedient. And I can't send someone who's disobedient to go meet God.
Oh my God.
I mean, like, I was like,
you're trying to take care of your fruit and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and do what you're supposed to do like years
old.
later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But that's like the church. It's
the
like,
way of control.
It's always
it's
always
constant
manipulating.
bring more people. And like the thing is, I don't know if you guys kind of felt this, but I felt like there was always some tension in the church about like whether it was units or groups that were growing more fast than others, like jealousy, and then pastor kind of guilt tripping the members that didn't have growing units or groups, saying, "Oh, you got our bad fruit resembles this tree." And there would always be these. We would develop these preaching competitions where like you got rewarded points and things like that, like a 40-day festival. So it's like a competition every single time. And at the end of the day, it should be, well, there's no judgment, but I feel like there's that constant judgment in itself. Not directed toward other churches, but at each other too. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. The churches compete against each other, but then they create competition from within against leaders. And in Denver, especially, we would have 8-hour meetings to create that tension, where you're getting up leader by leader, up in the hot seat in front of everyone. And it's like, what have you done? And you have to report on your group. And you're
once
getting
a month.
shamed
We would do that
publicly.
once a month. Yeah.
And it was
that once a month. We did that
report.
once a week.
Yeah.
For every Sabbath day on Monday.
It was legit 8 hours minimum where you're sitting back there. And if you are a teacher, so even if you didn't even lead a group, if you were within someone's group and a teacher, you are present for that too, so that because there's a way to cultivate you.
You're a witness to other
bear
people
witness to like,
rebuked.
this is what it is, and this is why it's such a blessing, and all that kind of stuff. And it would like wake people up.
Would Pastor shame like the groups too? It was constantly like that for he would shame the sisters the most. I felt bad for sisters. Like if groups were not growing, like he would let it out. Some brothers too, like some of the brothers were actually funny that he like kind of get on, but with the sisters I always felt bad because he never held back. It's just like one sister chose to like visit one member instead of another sister, and he's like yelling at her. She's like, well, I don't know.
It was the wrong choice.
Yeah,
that was the wrong member to visit. Why would you waste your time on that kind of member? What kind of mind do you have? You just choose the easy way, blah blah blah.
See, like that's why you're not growing. That's why no members come. Like it's just like
that's why you're not bearing fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of that always like guilt and shame that you're not doing enough. So it makes you like work harder.
It's always our fault that the church isn't growing.
And the pastors are never out preaching, by the way.
Oh no, never. They pick the groups, then they go back in the office and they're just chilling.
And go turn on baseball back in the office and
that didn't even
on a private hidden TV.
It didn't even occur to me to ask you if the pastors are preaching. They didn't.
No.
I've been preaching with Pastor. He was my preaching partner before. It's terrifying.
In the very early days, but I mean that lasted like a year from the time I was baptized. But and he wouldn't go every day though either.
No.
Like he would just go occasionally. But and even whenever I'd see him out there and preach, like I was disappointed. I was like, you kind of suck at this, man. I thought everyone would just follow you, but I don't know.
But see, if you brought people back to the church, he would study with them. Like if it was a hard study or something, then he would come in and like bring out his sword, and everybody would be like, "Oh, Pastor's going to."
Oh my God, he's studying.
And then everybody wants to go sit in. Yeah, everybody wants to be a witness.
Did he have a real sword?
No, that's what they call it. That's what they call your Bible because it's your weapon.
You guys, I thought you meant like a real sword.
No.
He'd put out what are those Japanese swords? It starts with a K, I think. But anyway, puts one of those out on the table, just pops the sheath a little bit. Yeah. He's like, so what kind of question do you have about Father Anselmo? No, you can ask. No, it's okay. No, I was like, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah, if you got to pastor's level, like if Pastor was coming to study with you, that it was on. Yeah. It was a sight to be seen. Chad, do you have any specific story you want to talk about? Or
I got stories for days.
I said Chad, right? I meant to say Chad.
No,
did I say Chad?
Chad, but we never introduced that Chad is also on the show with us today.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm Chad.
Hey, Chad.
Well, first of all, I'm just speechless just hearing these stories because it just brings back so many memories of it's just crazy. Anyway, what I want to talk about is why I hated preaching. Just a little bit to add to what everyone else is already saying, just to kind of piggyback. But I mean, everything you're hearing, I can confirm it's true that, I mean, one thing I hated about it is just the pressure that there was to recruit. And one, you're getting that pressure from the leadership of like pastor and general pastor and everything like that. It's in the books you read, like, that's like a common thing that you had to do for your salvation. So there was that pressure. but then there is also pressure from other members because, it becomes this thing where it gets perpetuated. So if you see some people going out and they are so comfortable with it and they're able to recruit people, because there are certain people, and it seems like a lot of them, what they did for their day jobs is that they were in sales.
That's
So they,
Chad,
so
you and I had recorded before this to like kind of explain what the preaching purpose is, and we said the only successful
they were salesmen.
people were car salesmen.
Yeah, no, they were
kind of like feeling bad about it.
Yeah, so they were always like lifted up, like they were the good example. You need to be like this deacon or this brother or this sister or this deaconess, because look at their faith, look how bold they are. And so the pressure then becomes to replicate that behavior, whether or not that's how you naturally feel or not, right? And so I always hated preaching. Like if it wasn't kind of like this, if it wasn't a forced thing, I never would have gone out and preached the way that we did. I never would have gone door to door or to public shopping centers and, be an undercover shopper, preacher person. I never would have done that because that's just not how I am. I'm the kind of person that likes to build real relationships with people. And then maybe through that, if it comes up, then I would share my faith with someone, like that would be my preference, right? So, but that was the thing, like to kind of go along with what Kelsey was talking about is just that, so, we have these various places that we go preach, stores, campuses, out in public, whatever. But it became this thing that was also like bragging rights. So if you were someone who is getting kicked out, that was something that was celebrated, to where like we would applaud that, like, oh, you're so strong. And there'd be times where they tell us to like tone it down a little bit, but for the most part, among the members, you're high-fiving and it was this thing that was like worthy of everyone's respect, like, oh, this person's fearless and blah blah blah, and I was just never that person. I wasn't like Kelsey. I was not a bulldog getting kicked out of shopping centers and stuff like that and getting escorted out of the mall. I think there was only maybe one time I got kicked off a campus, or our group got kicked off a campus because it was the University of Denver, which is a private university, right? So outsiders aren't supposed to be there, period. Anyway, so I mean, I just hated it. I hated that I was always conflicted because, one, I just saw that our approach when we were going to these public places, whether it's a campus or a Walmart, is that there's always that dishonesty about who we were, why we're there, what our intentions were. And I'm just always was conflicted in that way of like, we're lying to these people up front, and that doesn't feel right. Like, I don't understand how this is like for the glory of God or for the true Elohim God in the last days if we have to lie to people about it. But then at the same time, I'd be conflicted because I'm having all these internal thoughts, and it's like, this is supposed to be like a basic commandment from God. And the fact that I'm like, so no matter what side I lean towards, I just felt bad either way. And it was just a constant struggle. So anyway, whenever we would go, here's just one thing that's also messed up. So whenever you would go to these stores, each member, as you're paired up, we might have anywhere from 4 to 6 people at the same location, and you kind of like split up. But we would be in our church clothing, so we never went like in comfortable clothing like a normal shopper would, like a t-shirt and sweatpants and stuff like that. Like you're going in what you would be ready to teach the Bible in, with a collared shirt. Or a lot of brothers would take their tie off and thought that, like, ooh, I look normal now, let me ditch the tie here, let me take the jacket off or whatever, now I look like a civilian. But either way, we're wearing uncomfortable shoes. Sisters are still wearing their teaching get up and that kind of thing. So there, we stood out. I mean, people make fun of Mormons for the way that they dress. Like, the Church of God members are equally recognizable, right? So especially when we're going to the same locations all the time, 6 days a week or whatever. But while we're there, as a way to like blend in, we'd grab a shopping cart. And as you grab that shopping cart, we would just pretend that we're shopping and just throwing random shit into the shopping cart. And then you just bump into somebody, and then they start preaching to them. And And that's how they would spend the time. It'd be an hour to 2 hours just walking around the store trying to make contacts and get them to come to the church. Another weird thing, because as a normal person, if you go to the grocery store, you're not going to be there for 2 hours. Nobody would grocery shop then. It would be too time consuming. Like people are in 15 minutes, 20 minutes out, right? But we're over here just can't seem to find what we're looking for. And we got a TV in there and some watermelon and all kinds of shit, you know? And then the messed up part about that, as they're trying to make these contacts and tell them how we're from a group that has the truth in life, you know, but this is how we're presenting ourselves to these people. Well, then after we're done preaching, many times people would just leave that cart and just abandon it. And then let's go back to the church. We're done preaching. And so then that just creates more work for the employees who would have to go around and restock everything. And it's just like, I think about those people and it's like, dude, I would be so pissed. I would be like, those damn Church of God people are here again. You know, like, because it's just the most like random stuff. And so that always drove me nuts. And there's definitely people who later like try to change their behavior. I know I got to the point where maybe I would actually buy things that I actually needed or whatever.
Oh, but sometimes you'd get rebuked for shopping during preaching.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, because then your mind
Because then
not
where's your
focused on
mind?
preaching. You're focusing on your physical needs, but it's like at least it's legit. Like I would
at least
live with
never get
myself.
refrigerated stuff or freezer
Right.
stuff. I would only get non-perishable cans and items so that they wouldn't.
Yeah, like imagine throwing ice cream in there just to fit in, and then it's sitting out there for 2 hours as you're walking around. It's all
Right.
melted. But there is one deaconess that we were really good friends with. Like this is one thing. She was in North Dakota with me, and I love this woman, but she would do something that I just never agreed with. And sometimes she would grab like a drink or a juice and drink it while she was preaching, and then like just put it back on the counter like empty, and like totally like basically steal.
Yeah.
And never have to like go through the checkout. She'd just like sip on it while she's like out preaching. And I was like, what are you doing? You know? But anyway, so those are all the reasons, a lot of the reasons why I hated preaching. But yeah, I was definitely a part of that campus preaching and bus baptisms. I baptized a lot of people on our full-size buses and shuttle buses that we converted, and it was just crazy.
Denver
It's so
was
weird.
the sex trafficking scandal. 'Cause
Yeah, and
totally.
when I think our pastor would always brag about how he could run, if he wanted to, if he wasn't in the church, like he could run a business and be a successful CEO, and he thought he was this like entrepreneur and very like innovative. And so with the whole bus situation, he was very proud of himself for like coming up with that
He
idea.
really was, though.
And like, because he's like, yeah, we got a mobile baptism unit and we can just baptize people right there in the field. It's efficient. And, you know, sure enough, in 2012, it was like over 1,000 some people. And then again, you know, we got those, we started using them again, like in 2015. And the places we were focusing on is like Colorado State University, University of Colorado, Denver, you know, any college, but it was daily, and we have teams going out and people who were quitting their jobs to go do that. And so, but everywhere that we went, there was someone with baptism authority so that we could just, you know, right then and there. And it was wild, very wild. And anyway.
That makes much more sense than with the sex scandal thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because like they're college students.
Tony was still in the church.
Yeah,
it was like that, and I would be like, "Is that real? Let's find the truth of that." But if you guys had a bus where you were like inviting people to come get baptized in,
and the thing is you have to change your clothes.
Yes,
like you have to take your clothes off and put a robe on. You take off all your clothes and put a robe on. And we had a changing room. There was a changing private room. Like it was all like, it's hard to imagine a bus, but like literally it was transformed.
Yeah,
so it's not like your average bus. You know,
mm-hmm.
like
man
was very creative.
I don't think
the seats are out.
The intention was to be creepy, but I could see
but he failed to think of like outsider perspective, you know, like he's only thinking like from a bubble of like just within the world of the church and forgetting that the rest of the world doesn't think this way. And then so whenever you're going on these big campuses where there's like a cute girl who's, you know, 20 years old, and it's like, yeah, come on, you know, it's only going to be 5 minutes, and then you're studying with them for 30 minutes, they're late for class, and then you're trying to lead them to baptism. Like, cool, you want to get baptized and keep the
Go
Passover?
change your
Go
clothes.
step behind that curtain and take your clothes. I've got a funny story to lighten the mood a little bit, but
Let's end on
this is
let's end
Let's end on a funny note.
all right. So this is to me, this is like the funniest thing that ever happened, and it was just more of like embarrassing and a way of laughing at myself. But so as I was saying, all the reasons that I hate preaching. How I would kind of get through it is that I'm bilingual. I mean, I was much better back then, but I speak Spanish. So a lot of times if I had to go approach these people, the people that I would really try to focus on is like Spanish speakers, because it gave me like a sense of privacy, like talking to them in a public place where most people who are passing by aren't going to know what we're talking about. So this one night we're at Walmart, and I'm walking around and I find myself in the electronics section, and there's this Spanish family. So I approach them and we're over here talking, maybe 15 minutes or whatever. But, I wasn't real pushy, but I would just try to invite them to come. And while we're talking, I'm seeing like people in my peripheral, and I'm like, seems like there's a crowd building. I'm like, I don't get this. And so I'm trying not to look at them, and I'm just talking or whatever, and just being really happy. And it's a good, friendly conversation. As soon as we're done, I look over there, and there's this line of like anywhere from like 6 to 10 customers who are in a single file line, and they're all waiting to talk to me. And I look at them like, yes, can I help you? And the person in the front is this little old woman, and she's looking at me all distraught, and she's like, batteries, where are the batteries? And I was like, excuse me? And then it occurred to me when I looked at what I was dressed in, and I realized she thought I was the damn manager at Walmart. And all these people were waiting to talk to me to help them find products because they thought I was helping some other family. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That's so funny.
But you probably could have directed her to the batteries because you knew
I
every
probably
single
helped her.
aisle. Yeah.
I was like, actually, I've got some in my cart that I'm not going to buy. Here you go. But that is just
amazing.
always remember. I just remember her voice going, batteries, where are the batteries? So that just cracked me up, and that was probably the funniest thing that ever happened to me while preaching. And I was
amazing.
like, I don't work here.
That's a
I just
really,
volunteer.
really good ending to it, because it could either end real heavy or real silly. Let's end on that one.
All right.
That's hilarious.
Boom.
Boom, baby.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. You don't have to sit on the floor. I can move it up. How do I know what you're going to put on the podcast?
Well, we're not gonna put any of this in
I'm
there.
not going to do it anymore. Did you think it was good, Lynn?
Yeah, it was good.
All right.
Okay, I think we should just say, all right, stay tuned. We got some preaching stories from members.
How about we say, and now?
Yeah.
Now, a message from our
Sponsor.
And now a message from, and now we have some stories for your earballs.